The rain poured relentlessly on the quiet streets of the city, turning neon lights into blurred reflections on the wet asphalt. Inside a small, dimly lit diner, Maria wiped the counters for what seemed like the 100th time that evening. The bell above the door jingled as a few late-night patrons trickled in and out, but nothing could prepare her for what would happen next. Through the rain-streaked window, she saw a man stumble, carrying two small children clinging to him. Their clothes were soaked, and the man's face was bruised and bleeding. He looked desperate, exhausted, and utterly human in a way that struck Maria at her core. She dropped the rag in her hand and rushed outside, slipping slightly on the wet pavement. "Oh my God, are you okay?" she shouted, approaching them. The man's eyes flickered toward her, a mixture of pain and relief. He tried to speak, but only a raspy whisper escaped. "Help, please!" Maria immediately took charge. She helped him inside, guiding the twins to sit on a booth seat while she grabbed towels to stop the bleeding. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from adrenaline and the shock of the moment. She didn't recognize the man. He didn't appear to be anyone famous, at least not in a way she could place, but the way he held the children, protectively, tenderly, made her heart ache. The twins clung to him tightly, their little faces pressed against his chest, as if the moment they were separated, the world would collapse. Maria realized that the man wasn't just injured, he was terrified, exhausted, and completely alone. "I'm going to call an ambulance," she said, her voice steady despite the storm outside. "You're going to be okay, I promise." The man nodded weakly, and the twins whispered something inaudible, their tiny hands clutching his suit jacket. As she dialed 911, Maria tried to assess the injuries. There was a deep gash on his forehead, cuts on his hands, and a bruise forming along his jaw. Her mind raced. Who had done this to him? Why? And why was he holding the children like they were the only thing keeping him alive? The paramedics arrived quickly, moving with practiced efficiency. They assessed the wounds, and Maria held the twins' hands, comforting them. "He's going to be okay. You'll see him again soon," she whispered. Their small, fearful faces pressed into her arms, and she felt a responsibility she had never anticipated. Once they were safely in the ambulance, Maria stepped outside, drenched and shivering. Something about the night weighed heavily on her chest. She had seen many things in her life, but the image of the injured man holding the twins was etched in her memory. She couldn't stop thinking about them, couldn't stop wondering who they were. Hours later, Maria received a call from the hospital. The man had stabilized, but his condition was serious. They asked her for any information, and she realized she barely knew anything, except that he had children and needed help. Something told her that this encounter was more than a coincidence. The next morning, curiosity and concern drove her to visit the hospital. She needed to see the twins again, to make sure they were safe. As she entered the room, her eyes fell on the man in bed. Bandages covered his head, but his eyes were alert. And then she noticed the small plaque on the wall indicating his identity. Maria's jaw dropped. The man she had helped, the injured father she had seen in such a vulnerable human state, was Alexander D'Angelo, a billionaire CEO whose empire spanned industries and continents. The realization hit her with staggering force. The man she had helped out of sheer compassion, without knowing who he was one of the most powerful men in the world. Alexander looked at her, his eyes filled with gratitude and a hint of vulnerability. "You saved them," he whispered. Maria nodded softly, overwhelmed. "I just did what anyone would do," she said. But deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. As she left the hospital, Maria felt a mix of awe and apprehension. Her ordinary life had collided with a world of wealth, power, and danger, and somehow she was now a part of it. The rain continued to fall, but now it felt like a cleansing storm, washing away the ordinary and ushering in the extraordinary. That night, Maria couldn't sleep. Images of the twins clinging to their father haunted her. Who could hurt a man like that? And how could she, a simple waitress, be connected to a story that felt bigger than anything she had ever imagined. The following days were a blur for Maria. She visited Alexander at the hospital regularly, bringing blankets, food, and small comforts for him and the twins. Slowly, the walls around him began to fall. Alexander, the billionaire CEO, shared fragments of his story, though he was careful not to reveal too much. "They knew exactly where I would be," he said one evening. "It wasn't random. They wanted to intimidate me, to get to my children." Maria's heart tightened. The stakes were far higher than she had imagined. She wasn't just helping a stranger. She was helping someone being hunted, targeted for reasons she didn't yet fully understand. The twins, sensing the tension, clung to Alexander. Their tiny voices whispered reassurances, and Maria realized that she had grown fiercely protective of them as well. This wasn't just a father's fight anymore. It was a family's survival. One evening, while reviewing security footage, Alexander discovered a shocking betrayal. One of his most trusted aides, someone he had relied on for years, had been secretly communicating with unknown figures. "I can't believe it," he said, his voice tight with disbelief. "Someone I trusted, plotting behind my back." Maria felt a chill run down her spine. The betrayal ran deep, and the danger was closer than ever. "We have to be careful," she said. "We can't trust anyone right now." Alexander nodded. "Exactly. We move cautiously, step by step, and we protect the children at all costs." Over the next few days, they worked together to create a plan. Maria became integral to his strategy, using her practical sense and intuition to help him anticipate threats. Alexander had the resources, but Maria had insight into human behavior and a courage born from necessity. The situation escalated when a mysterious figure was spotted near the hospital. Alexander and Maria knew that someone was tracking them, someone ready to strike. They moved the twins to a secure location, an isolated safe house outside the city. Maria stayed by their side, keeping them calm while Alexander coordinated security measures. At the safe house, Maria watched Alexander's transformation. The man who had seemed vulnerable in the diner was now calculating, vigilant, and protective. Yet, beneath the steel, he was still the father who clutched his twins as if they were the only anchors in a stormy sea. Late one night, Alexander confided in Maria. "The person behind this, they're closer than I realized. Someone I trusted completely. And now, they've put everything at risk." Maria's hands shook. "Then we stopped them. We protect your family." Alexander looked at her, gratitude and determination in his eyes. "You saved them once. Now, we save them together." The twins slept peacefully that night, oblivious to the danger surrounding them. But Maria and Alexander knew that the storm was far from over. The mastermind behind the attacks would not wait, and every decision from now on would be a matter of life and death. The tension reached its peak when Alexander traced the attacks and betrayals to a single source: his longtime business partner. Someone he had considered family had orchestrated the attack, aiming to seize control of his empire and manipulate him through fear. Maria's protective instincts flared. "We have to confront them." "No more waiting," Alexander agreed. Using careful planning, they set a trap. The mastermind believed Alexander was vulnerable, unaware that he and Maria had anticipated every move. The confrontation took place in a secured location, far from the twins, who were safe in a hidden wing of the estate. When the betrayer arrived, arrogance and overconfidence were evident. "Alexander, I see you found out," he said smoothly. "But you can't stop me." Alexander's gaze was cold and unwavering. "Everything you've done is exposed. It ends tonight." Maria stepped forward, her voice steady and firm. "You underestimated us. You thought fear and power alone could control lives. But love and courage are stronger than greed." The confrontation escalated into a tense battle of wits and strategy. Every move, every word, every hidden threat was countered. The mastermind's plan unraveled before their eyes, revealing all the lies, manipulations, and threats that had loomed over Alexander's life. Finally, the betrayal was neutralized, the mastermind captured and stripped of their influence. Alexander, Maria, and the twins were safe. In the aftermath, Alexander's gratitude toward Maria was palpable. "You saved them. You saved me. I will never forget this," he said softly. Maria smiled, exhausted but relieved. "I just did what anyone would do. But together, we were unstoppable." As dawn broke, the city awoke, unaware of the storm that had raged behind the scenes. Alexander held his twins, their small arms wrapped around him, and Maria watched, knowing that sometimes ordinary people could change the course of extraordinary lives. In that moment, they were more than Billionaire and Waitress. They were a family forged in crisis, bound by courage, trust, and the will to survive. And no matter what came next, they knew they could face it together.